General Catherine Walsh stood still at the window of her ship. Stars shone in the darkness of space. She had not moved for many hours. 2 days ago, she got the news that her son, Daniel, was dead. The Arcturus Empire called it a regrettable, civilian casualty. Daniel had been visiting his father on Proxima B. The Empire's soldiers had fired into a crowd of humans who were protesting. Daniel was only 16 years old. Catherine's face showed nothing, but inside something was breaking. She kept looking at the stars, at the distant light of Arcturus. That was the home of the Empire that had killed her son. Lieutenant Sam Miller walked up to her carefully. He had worked with General Walsh for 7 years. In all that time, he had never seen her like this, so quiet, so still. Usually she was full of energy and plans. The troops called her Mother Bear because she was both caring and fierce. Now she seemed like a different person. General Walsh, Sam said quietly. The Joint Chiefs want to meet with you. They called an emergency meeting. Catherine didn't turn around. Tell me the truth, Sam. What did the full report say about Daniel's death? Sam took a deep breath. Daniel wasn't just in the wrong place, General. Grand Marshal Vexlar, the Empire's military leader, gave the order to shoot. They thought humans on Proxima B were planning to resist Imperial rule. They wanted to scare everyone by making an example. Catherine finally turned around. Her face was calm, but her eyes had changed. The warm brown eyes that made troops feel safe were now cold and hard. Tell the Joint Chiefs I'll be there soon, she said. Her voice was even and quiet. And Sam? Yes, General. Start Protocol Nemesis. Authorization Walsh Alpha 703. Sam's eyes got big. Protocol Nemesis was a war plan so aggressive that Earth's leaders had put it aside. Even at the worst times with the Arcturus Empire, no one had wanted to use it. General, we would need approval from... I'm not asking for permission, Sam. I'm giving you an order. She spoke calmly, as if they were discussing what to have for lunch. The Empire thinks we are weak because we try to make peace. They think I am just another human general. Sam nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. As Sam left, Catherine looked back at the stars toward Arcturus. Sam had never seen the general cry. He didn't see her cry now either. Instead, he saw her smile. Catherine had not always been a general. Before that, she had built Earth's spy network. She knew how to hide what she was thinking. For 5 years, she had been Earth's main diplomat to the Arcturus Empire. Every meeting, every tour, every handshake had been a chance to learn about the Empire's strengths and weaknesses. The Empire leaders thought Catherine was just doing a job no one else wanted. They thought humans were silly to send a military leader to do diplomatic work. They laughed about it in their private meetings. What they didn't know was that Catherine had been gathering information all along. She had been building a plan. 2. Hours later, she walked into the war room on her ship, the UES Relentless. Around a large table sat admirals, generals, and intelligence directors, Earth's top military leaders. They all watched her, some with sad eyes, others with worried looks. Admiral Jack Reynolds spoke first. Catherine, we are all sorry about Daniel. This is a terrible loss. Catherine nodded once. Thank you, Jack. Now let's talk about how we're going to take apart the Arcturus Empire. The room got very quiet. General Alan Dixon cleared his throat. General Walsh, what happened on Proxima B was terrible and wrong. But we need to be careful. The Arcturus Empire controls 37 star systems. They have 3 times as many ships and weapons as we do. Catherine gave a small smile as she sat down. They think they have 3 times our strength, Alan. That's not the same thing. She turned on the display in the middle of the table. It showed maps of Imperial bases, patrol routes, and communication systems. This was information that even the top intelligence officers in the room had never seen. For the past 5 years, while working as our diplomat to the Empire, I've been mapping all their defenses, command structures, and weak spots. Operation Whetstone wasn't just training. It was preparation. Director Olivia Winters of Military Intelligence studied the data with growing surprise. This is amazing. How did you get all this? Carefully, Catherine said. The Empire thinks humans are easy to predict, too emotional, and divided by politics. They see us as a small power they can push around by frightening us now and then. What they don't understand is that humans are most dangerous when we're hurt. She made the display bigger to show a complex battle plan. This is Operation Nemesis, a precise attack on 17 key Imperial command centers at the same time. Not a head-on attack, but a surgical strike that will cut off the head from the body. Admiral Reynolds leaned forward. These targets include Grand Marshal Vexlar's ship. Yes, Catherine said. The Emperor's most trusted military commander, the one who killed my son. The Empire follows strict rules. When their command structure falls apart, they won't know how to respond. That will create openings for our second wave of attacks. The military leaders looked at the plan in stunned silence. It was bold, detailed, and completely ruthless. This isn't just revenge, General Dixon said quietly. This is the start of total war. Catherine looked him in the eye. The Empire started this war when they decided human lives didn't matter. I'm just helping them understand what happens when they make that mistake. She stood up, her hands resting on the table as she looked at each person in the room. The question isn't whether we go to war, but whether we fight it our way or theirs. I've spent 5 years making sure we have advantages they don't know about. All I need is your permission. One by one, they gave it. As the meeting ended, Admiral Reynolds stayed behind with Catherine. Are you sure about this, Kate? He asked, when they were alone. Once we start, there's no going back. Catherine's face showed no doubt. Jack, when the Empire killed my son, they thought they were killing the child of a general. But Daniel wasn't just my son. He was my heart. Now, all that's left is the general, and they have no idea what I'm capable of. 2 days after the meeting on the UES Relentless, Catherine's plan was in motion. Earth ships moved silently through space. These were not big warships, but small, fast ships that could not be seen on Imperial scanners. Catherine had helped design them 5 years ago. The Empire did not know they existed. Catherine sat in her private room looking at a photo of Daniel. He had her eyes and his father's smile. John Walsh had been Earth's top expert on Imperial technology before he and Catherine split up. They had remained friends and both loved their son deeply. Now John was helping to plan the attack that would avenge their boy. There was a knock at her door. Lieutenant Sam Miller stood there with a data pad. The scouts have returned, General, he said. All Imperial bases are following normal routines. They don't suspect anything. Catherine put down the photo. And Vexlar's ship, the Eternal Dominion? Right where we expected, patrolling the edge of the Proxima system. Catherine nodded. And our special units? In position around all 17 targets, waiting for your signal. Catherine got up and straightened her uniform. Then it's time I spoke with the Joint Chiefs one last time. In the main communication room, the faces of Earth's military leaders appeared on screen. They looked worried but determined. All battle groups are in position, General Walsh, Admiral Reynolds reported. But I must ask one final time if you're certain about this. Once we begin, there's no going back. Catherine looked at each face. On the screen, the Empire has pushed humans around for 20 years. They take our resources. They limit where we can go in space. They kill our people when they feel like it. Each time we have backed down because we were afraid of their power. That ends today. She touched a control, and the screens changed to show a map of Imperial space with 17 red dots marking their targets. These command centers control the Empire's military. Their captains and admirals cannot act without orders from above. That's their weakness. They built their command system to protect against big attacks. They never thought about small strikes from ships they can't see. General Dixon spoke up. And you're sure your intelligence is correct? The captains really can't make decisions on their own? I'm sure, Catherine said. I've sat through 50 Imperial military parades. I've attended their war games as an observer. I've listened to their commanders brag about their system. The Empire values order above all else. Their ships are powerful, but without clear orders they freeze. Admiral Reynolds nodded slowly. Then we're ready to proceed on your command, General Walsh. Catherine turned to Lieutenant Miller. Send the go signal to all strike teams. Operation Nemesis begins now. Across Imperial space, small Earth ships closed in on their targets. Each carried 20 Special Forces soldiers trained for this exact mission. They had practiced for months in mock-ups of Imperial ships. They knew every corridor, every security system. 6 hours later, Catherine stood in the war room as reports came in. One by one, screens lit up green as Earth teams took control of Imperial command centers. The pattern of attacks was designed to hide what was happening until it was too late. Each Imperial base thought their communication problems were local issues. None realized it was part of a larger attack. Targets 1 through 12 secure, Sam reported. Targets 13 and 14 are behind schedule but making progress. No serious resistance encountered yet. Catherine nodded. The Empire's overconfidence was working against them. They had never expected humans to strike first. They had never expected humans to have the technology to bypass their defenses. What about targets 15, 16, and 17? She asked. Sam hesitated. 15 and 16 are green, but 17... Target 17 was the Eternal Dominion, Grand Marshal Vexillar's ship, the most important target, the heart of the Empire's military command. What's happening with 17? Catherine asked, her voice calm despite the tension. Our team reports heavy resistance. Vexillar's personal guards are fighting back hard. Team leader estimates they need another hour to reach the command deck. Catherine thought for a moment. The other strikes have been too successful. Vexillar must suspect something by now. She made a decision. Tell the team to hold position. I'm going to force Vexillar's hand another way. She walked to the communication station. Open a direct channel to the Eternal Dominion. I want to speak with Grand Marshal Vexillar. The officers in the room looked at each other in surprise. This was not part of the plan they had discussed. General, Sam said quietly, if you reveal yourself now. I know what I'm doing, Sam, Catherine said. Her calm voice matched her steady hands as she prepared to face the being who had ordered her son's death. The screen flickered and then showed the command deck of an Imperial ship. In the center stood Grand Marshal Vexillar. He was tall, with blue scales that caught the light and yellow eyes that looked like a snake's. He wore an ornate uniform covered in medals and symbols of his high rank. General Walsh, Vexillar said, surprise clear in his voice. This is unexpected. Our diplomatic channels are experiencing some technical issues today. This isn't a diplomatic call, Grand Marshal, Catherine said. Her face showed nothing of the hate she felt. By now you must realize that your command network is compromised. Vexillar's eyes narrowed. We are dealing with some minor communication problems, nothing serious. Not minor, Catherine corrected him. And not just communication. As we speak, human forces have taken control of 16 Imperial command centers. Vexillar laughed a harsh sound. An amusing bluff, General. Your human forces could never penetrate our defenses. Check your secure channels, Marshal, Catherine suggested. Call your fellow commanders. See who answers. She could see worry beginning to show on the alien's face. Behind him, Imperial officers were working frantically at their stations. If what you say is true, Vexillar said slowly, then you have committed an act of war. No, Catherine said. You committed an act of war when you ordered your soldiers to fire on unarmed civilians, when you killed my son. For the first time, Vexillar looked uncertain. Your son? I don't understand. Daniel Walsh, 16 years, old. He was visiting his father on Proxima B when your troops decided to make an example of protesting humans. Catherine's voice remained even, controlled. You thought you were killing just another human. You didn't realize you were killing the son of the person who has spent 5 years learning exactly how to take apart your empire piece by piece. Now real alarm showed on Vexillar's face. The diplomatic tours, the military parades, all this time you were preparing, Catherine finished for him. The Empire taught me an important lesson, Marshal. You showed me that peace was never an option. Now I'm going to show you what happens when you mistake human restraint for weakness. Catherine nodded to Sam, who pressed a button on his console. The screen split to show multiple views of Imperial bases now under human control. "You have 1 hour to surrender the Eternal Dominion," Catherine said. "After that, we move to Phase 2. "The Emperor will never allow this," Vexlar hissed. "The Emperor no longer has a choice," Catherine replied. "And neither do you." The screen went dark as Catherine cut the connection. She turned to face her officers, who were staring at her with a mixture of awe and fear. "Phase 2? Sam asked quietly. "There is no Phase 2 in the plan." Catherine smiled coldly. "Vexlar doesn't know that." Grand Marshal Vexlar paced the command deck of the Eternal Dominion. His blue scales had turned a darker shade, a sign of stress in his species. Around him, Imperial officers worked frantically to restore communications with other command centers. "Nothing, Grand Marshal," reported his communications officer. "We still cannot reach any of the 16 bases General Walsh mentioned." Vexlar slammed his fist on a nearby console. "Impossible. How could the humans breach our defenses so completely? And why weren't we warned?" Ambassador Thrix stepped forward cautiously. Unlike most Arcturians, Thrix had spent years studying humans. "Grand Marshal, I believe General Walsh has been planning this for a long time. During her diplomatic visits, she was gathering intelligence. A diplomat spying? That violates all Imperial protocols," Vexlar hissed. "Humans don't always follow our rules," Thrix said. "And Walsh wasn't just any diplomat. She was their top military strategist before taking on diplomatic duties. We never questioned why they would assign such a valuable military mind to simple diplomatic work." Vexlar's yellow eyes narrowed. "And this boy she mentioned? Her son?" Thrix nodded. "Daniel Walsh. I've confirmed he was among the dead at the Proxima B incident. He was visiting his father, John Walsh, who works at the Human Research Station there." "John Walsh," Vexlar repeated. "Why is that name familiar?" "He was once married to General Walsh. He's their leading expert on Imperial technology. Together, they would have the perfect combination of knowledge to plan something like this." Vexlar turned to his tactical officer. "What is the status of our ship? We've detected small human vessels attempting to approach, but our defenses are holding them back for now. However, we're picking up unusual energy signatures nearby. They may have more ships using some kind of stealth technology we can't fully detect." Vexlar considered his options. The Empire had never faced a situation like this. The Eternal Dominion was powerful, but if 16 command centers had already fallen, this was not a normal attack. This was something new. "Contact the Imperial Palace," he ordered. "I must speak with Emperor Zorax immediately." The communications officer tried, but shook his head. "Our secure channel to Arcturus Prime is also down, Grand Marshal." For the first time in his long military career, Vexlar felt real fear. The humans had somehow cut off every communication line to higher authority. Without orders from above, Imperial protocol was unclear. Suddenly, the main screen activated again. General Catherine Walsh appeared, looking calm and collected. "Your hour is nearly up, Grand Marshal," she said. "Have you made your decision?" Vexlar straightened to his full height. "The Arcturus Empire does not surrender to lesser species. Your attack is doomed to failure. Even now, our reserve fleets will be mobilizing to crush your pathetic forces." Catherine smiled slightly. "There will be no rescue, Marshal. Your reserve fleets have no one to give them orders. Your command structure is built on absolute authority, from the top down. Without clear orders, your captains will wait. That's how you designed your system." She touched something off-screen, and the display changed to show a map of Imperial space. Red dots blinked where command centers had fallen. For 20 years, the Empire has treated humans as weak because we value independence and individual initiative. You saw these as flaws. But today, those qualities are your downfall. Each of my strike teams can act on their own if needed. Your forces can't. Vexlar's scales darkened further. "What do you want, General?" "I told you. Surrender the Eternal Dominion. Withdraw all Imperial forces from human colonies. End this now before more blood is shed." "And if I refuse?" Catherine's expression didn't change. "Then we move to Phase 2. Tell me, Marshall, have you ever studied human history? Do you know what happens when humans are pushed too far? When we have nothing left to lose? Before Vexlar could answer, alarms blared across the command deck. Multiple explosions in the lower decks, shouted the tactical officer. We have hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. Human forces are inside the ship. Catherine watched, calmly. Your security teams are about to be very busy, Marshall. I'll give you another 30 minutes to reconsider. The screen went dark again. Vexlar turned to Ambassador Thrix. What was she talking about? Human history? Thrix looked troubled. Humans have fought many wars among themselves. When they're desperate, when they feel they have nothing to lose, they become extremely dangerous. They will sacrifice everything to win. You sound afraid of them, Vexlar said with disgust. I respect them, Thrix corrected. And right now, I fear what General Walsh might do next. The loss of her son has pushed her beyond normal human restraint. Vexlar moved to the tactical station. Deploy all security teams to repel the borders. Prepare my personal shuttle. If humans have truly taken control of our command centers, I must reach the Emperor directly. Aboard the UES Relentless, Catherine watched the data coming in from the strike team on the Eternal Dominion. They were making progress, fighting their way toward the command deck. Should we tell them to push harder? Sam asked. We could have control of the ship in 20 minutes if they move faster. Catherine shook her head. No. I want Vexlar to run. I want him to flee to the Emperor. Sam looked confused. But the plan was to capture or kill Vexlar, to remove him from the Empire's command structure. Plans evolve, Sam, Catherine said. She turned to a communication officer. Do we have visual on the shuttle bay of the Eternal Dominion? Yes, General. Our stealth ships have it under observation. Good. The moment Vexlar's shuttle launches, I want to know. But tell our forces not to interfere with it. Let it go. Sam stepped closer, speaking quietly. General, with respect, what are you doing? This isn't what we discussed with the Joint Chiefs. Catherine's eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. The goal was never just to cripple the Empire's military. Sam, it was to change the Empire itself. For that, I need Vexlar to reach the Emperor. I need the Emperor to understand exactly what he's facing. 15 minutes later, the report came in. General, Vexlar's shuttle has launched from the Eternal Dominion, course set for Arcturus Prime. Catherine nodded. Perfect. Now contact the strike team on the Eternal Dominion. Tell them to secure the command deck, then transmit the surrender demand to all sections of the ship. Ambassador Thrix should still be on board. I want him unharmed and brought to me as soon as possible. Yes, General, the communications officer replied. Sam looked at Catherine with new understanding. You're not just fighting a war. You're playing a much bigger game. Catherine finally turned to face her adjutant. War is always a bigger game, Sam. The Arcturus Empire has ruled through fear for centuries. They believe their military strength makes them invincible. But strength without wisdom is just brute force. And brute force always fails eventually. She looked back at the screen, where Vexlar's shuttle was shown moving away from the Eternal Dominion toward Arcturus Prime. Sometimes to win a war, you need to let your enemy believe they still have a chance. You need to let them make the choices that will lead to their own defeat. Sam nodded slowly. And Vexlar running to the Emperor? Is exactly what I wanted, Catherine said. Now we wait. 3 hours later, all 17 command centers were under human control. The Imperial military, cut off from its leadership, had frozen in confusion. Some ships had surrendered without firing a shot. Others waited in defensive positions, unable to take action without orders from above. In the war room of the UES Relentless, Catherine met with Ambassador Thrix, who had been brought from the captured Eternal Dominion. Ambassador, she greeted him calmly. Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. Thrix studied her with his yellow eyes. I'm not sure I had much choice, General Walsh. There are always choices, Catherine said. Right now, the Empire is facing some very important ones. That's why I wanted to talk to you. You understand humans better than any other Imperial official. I need you to help the Emperor understand what happens next. Emperor Zorak VI sat on his throne in the Great Hall of the Imperial Palace on Arcturus Prime. His golden armor gleamed in the light from 1,000 floating orbs. Around him stood the High Council, the most powerful beings in the Empire after the Emperor himself. Grand Marshal Vexillor knelt before the throne. He had just finished explaining the human attack. His voice had grown hoarse from telling the terrible story. 17 command centers taken? All at once? The Emperor's voice was quiet, but everyone could hear his anger. How is this possible, Vexillor? The humans have technology we didn't know about, Vexillor said. Ships that can't be seen on our scanners, and they have detailed knowledge of our bases, our defenses, our communication systems. From this human general, this Catherine Walsh? Yes, my Emperor. She used her position as a diplomat to gather intelligence for years. We underestimated her. The Emperor rose from his throne. He was taller than Vexillor, with scales that had a golden tint. His eyes glowed with power and rage. And why would this general suddenly attack us now after years of peaceful talks? Vexillor looked down. Because of the incident on Proxima B, her son was among those killed when our troops fired on the protesters. A murmur ran through the High Council. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Are you telling me, Grand Marshal, that the Empire is facing its greatest military defeat in 300 years because one human woman is angry about her offspring? Vexillor started to answer, but another voice interrupted him. Not just angry, my Emperor. Prepared. Ambassador Thrix walked into the hall, escorted by 2 Imperial guards. The High Council gasped. Thrix had been on the Eternal Dominion. How was he now on Arcturus Prime? The humans allowed me to come here, Thrix explained, seeing their confusion. General Walsh asked me to deliver a message. Emperor Zorax waved a hand, and the guards left Thrix's side. Speak, Ambassador. Thrix bowed, deeply. My Emperor, the humans have given me permission to tell you that they now control not just 17 command centers, but all the ships and bases connected to those centers. Nearly 40% of our military forces are either under human control or unable to act without orders. The High Council broke into alarmed whispers. The Emperor silenced them with a look. And what do these humans want? The Emperor demanded. Territory? Resources? They want 3 things, Thrix said. First, the Empire must pull all forces out of human space, including all colonies and mining operations. Second, there must be a formal apology for the deaths on Proxima B with payment to the families of those killed. Third, Thrix hesitated. Speak, the Emperor commanded. Third, Grand Marshal Vexillor must be handed over to the humans for trial for the murder of Daniel Walsh and the other civilians. Vexillor jumped to his feet. This is outrageous. I am a high Imperial officer. I cannot be judged by lesser beings for maintaining order in our territory. The Emperor held up a hand and Vexillor fell silent. These demands are unacceptable. The Empire does not bow to threats, no matter how clever the attack. Tell General Walsh that the Empire will bring its full might against the humans for this action. We will crush their worlds and end their species if necessary. Thrix looked troubled. My Emperor, with all respect, I must tell you what I have seen. General Walsh is not bluffing. She has spent years preparing for this moment. The humans now hold positions that would take us months or years to retake by force, and... He paused again. And what? The Emperor asked coldly. And she has warned of a Phase 2 that will begin if her demands are not met. I believe this phase may target civilian infrastructure, power systems, food distribution, planetary shields. The human strike teams have shown they can move unseen through our space. We would not be able to stop them all. One of the High Council members stepped forward. My Emperor, the reports from the outer systems confirm what Ambassador Thrix says. Our military response is in disarray. Without the command centers, ship captains are waiting for orders that never come. The humans have found the perfect weakness in our system. Another council member spoke up. The humans are barbarians. They would not dare attack civilian targets. Thrix shook his head. With respect, it is that attitude that brought us here. We thought we understood humans. We thought their diplomatic efforts showed weakness. We were wrong. General Walsh let us believe what we wanted to believe while she studied our every weakness. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to a nearby aide. Show me the latest battle reports from all sectors. The aide activated a large display that filled the air in the center of the hall. It showed the Empire in a way no one had ever seen before. Not as the powerful force that controlled 37 star systems, but as a confusion of isolated ships and bases cut off from command, unable to coordinate or respond effectively to the human strikes. How long would it take to restore our command structure? The Emperor asked the High Council's military advisor. Months, my Emperor. Perhaps a year. We would need to retake each command center and rebuild the entire network. And the humans now know how it works. They could disrupt it again. Emperor Zorax paced the length of his throne. For the first time in the 1,000-year history of the Arcturus Empire, a real defeat seemed possible. Not just a setback, but a true breaking of imperial power. Ambassador Thrix, the Emperor said finally, you know these humans better than anyone else here. Tell me honestly, will General Walsh really attack civilian targets if we refuse her demands? Thrix met the Emperor's gaze steadily. My Emperor, I have studied humans for 20 years. Most humans hold certain lines they will not cross. But there is something in their history called total war. When they believe they face an enemy that threatens their existence, they remove all limits. They become capable of actions that would shock even the most hardened imperial warrior. Took a breath before continuing. General Walsh watched her son die at our hands. In her mind, the Empire has already crossed all lines. I believe she will do whatever she feels is necessary to ensure the Empire can never threaten her people again. The Emperor turned to Vexlar. And you ordered the shooting on Proxima B without consulting higher authority? Vexlar straightened. The situation required a firm response. The humans were growing too bold, too defiant. I made a decision, as was my right as Grand Marshal. A decision that has brought the Empire to the edge of ruin, the Emperor said softly. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. He turned back to Thrix. Tell General Walsh I will speak with her directly. Perhaps there is room for negotiation. As Thrix bowed and left, the Emperor returned to his throne. The High Council waited in tense silence. Never before had an Emperor of Arcturus considered negotiating with a species the Empire had deemed inferior. My Emperor, Vexlar said desperately, the Empire cannot show weakness. The humans must be punished for their attack. Emperor Zorax looked at his Grand Marshal with cold eyes. The Empire cannot show weakness, Vexlar, but it appears that you already have. You killed a boy, and in doing so, you awakened something far more dangerous than you could imagine. A mother with nothing left to lose, who happens to be the most brilliant military mind of her species. The Emperor's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire hall. The question now is not how we punish the humans, but how many more of our people must die for your mistake. 1 year later, Catherine Walsh walked alone in a garden on Proxima B. The red light of the system's sun made long shadows on the ground. Young trees grew in neat rows. There was one tree for each person who had died here when Imperial soldiers opened fire on the crowd. The tallest tree stood in the middle of the garden. It had silver leaves that moved in the soft wind. Catherine stopped in front of this tree and touched the small metal sign at its base. Daniel Aaron Walsh, beloved son. The last victim of misunderstanding. It had been 6 months since Catherine retired from both military and diplomatic service. The war that everyone now called the 7-Day War had ended with a treaty that changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Humans were no longer seen as a minor species to be pushed around. The Arcturus Empire still existed, but it had pulled back from human space. It had changed too. Emperor Zorax VI still ruled, but he had created a new council with representatives from all species in the Empire, including humans. General Walsh? Catherine turned to see a young woman in a diplomatic uniform. Ambassador Carter, she said with a nod. I didn't expect to see anyone here today. The Arcturian delegation has arrived for the 1-year memorial ceremony, Carter, said. "There's someone who has asked to meet you. Someone important." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "Reform Minister Thrix, the new leader of the imperial government under the Emperor. He's brought someone with him. A child." Catherine's face showed surprise for a moment before returning to its usual calm. "Explain." "It's Grand Marshal Vexeler's child," Carter said. "According to Arcturian custom, when a high official is disgraced, their family is also punished. The child should have been sent away to a labor camp, but Minister Thrix stopped that from happening. He says he learned something important from humans about breaking cycles of violence." Catherine was quiet for a long time, looking at her son's memorial tree. "What does he want from me?" "He wants to meet you. He wants the child to meet you, to see the person who could have destroyed their civilization but chose a different path." Catherine closed her eyes briefly. Few people knew how close the 7-Day War had come to being much worse. The Phase 2 she had threatened had never really existed. There had been no plans to attack civilian targets. Catherine had bluffed, counting on the Empire's fear and Ambassador Thrix's understanding of human history to make the bluff work. That thin line between strategic genius and actual ruthlessness was something Catherine still thought about every day. "Tell Minister Thrix I'll meet with them," she said. Later that day, Catherine stood in a meeting room in the Human Government building on Proxima B. The door opened, and Ambassador Thrix walked in. He looked different now. His blue scales were less shiny, and he moved with a slight limp from injuries during the war. But his yellow eyes were kind and wise as always. Beside him stood a small Arcturian child. The child had lighter blue scales and wide, nervous eyes. "Catherine Walsh," Thrix said with a bow. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Catherine nodded. "Minister Thrix, you've come a long way since we last met." Thrix smiled. "We all have. The Empire is changing, thanks to you." "Thanks to us," Catherine corrected him. "Your courage in speaking truth to the Emperor was just as important as any military action I took." Thrix put a gentle hand on the child's shoulder. "This is Sath, child of Vexlar. Sath, this is General Catherine Walsh." The child looked up at Catherine with fear. Catherine knelt down so she was at the same height as the young Arcturian. "Hello, Sath," she said softly. The child spoke in a quiet voice. "You are the one who defeated my father." "Yes," Catherine said simply. "They say you could have destroyed us all, but you didn't." "Why?" Catherine thought carefully before answering. "Because ending one life doesn't bring back another. Because the future is more important than the past. Because I wanted to be better than those who hurt me." Sath seemed to think about this. "My father said humans were weak, that you let feelings control your actions." "Your father wasn't entirely wrong," Catherine said. "Humans do feel things deeply. We love our children so much that losing them can break us. We get angry when we see injustice. We feel joy when we make peace instead of war." She paused. "But feeling deeply isn't the same as being weak. Sometimes, it takes more strength to show mercy than to destroy an enemy." Thrix watched them with approval. "That is the lesson I hoped Sath would learn today. It's the lesson I've been trying to teach the Empire." Catherine stood up. "And how is that going?" "Slowly," Thrix admitted. "Change never comes quickly to a civilization as old as ours. But it is coming. The Emperor now understands that treating other species with respect is not weakness. That diversity of thought makes us stronger, not weaker." He looked down at Sath. "And the next generation will understand it even better." Catherine nodded. "I'm glad to hear it. That makes all of this worthwhile." After Thrix and Sath left, Catherine returned to the memorial garden. The sun was setting now, casting a deep red glow over the trees. John Walsh, Catherine's ex-husband and Daniel's father, was waiting by their son's tree. His hair had more gray than the last time she had seen him. "I heard you met with Thrix and Vexler's child," he said. "News travels fast," Catherine replied. "People still watch what you do," John said. "You changed the galaxy, Kate. That doesn't go unnoticed." Catherine touched the memorial sign again. I miss him every day. Me too, John said softly. But I think he would be proud of what you did. Proud that you found a way to make his death mean something beyond revenge? Catherine looked up at the branches of the memorial tree reaching toward the darkening sky. The Empire killed our son, she said quietly. They never knew they were creating something far more dangerous than a general or a grieving mother. What's that? John asked. A woman with nothing left to lose who still chose mercy. That's what truly terrified them in the end. Not our weapons, or our strategy, but the fact that we could have destroyed them and chose not to. Mercy from someone with every reason for vengeance is a power they had never seen before. As the stars began to appear in the alien sky, Catherine and John stood together by their son's memorial. They couldn't bring him back, but they had built something in his memory that might last for generations. A new understanding between species that had once seen each other only as enemies. Do you think it will last? John asked after a while. Catherine looked up at the stars, at the distant light of Arcturus. I don't know. Peace is harder than war. It takes more work, more attention, more courage. But it's worth trying for. That's what I want Daniel's legacy to be. Not that his death started a war, but that it ultimately led to peace. As night fell, on Proxima B, Catherine Walsh, the general who had brought an empire to its knees, finally allowed herself to cry.